Yo, what's going on? It's Real Hall of Fame, D-Line, tbkc, and all that sweet, beautiful, wonderful shit. Who knows, I might be a little more tired today. Today, blood day, so, yeah, a little bit wore out. But anyway, this video is about flaws. And what I mean by that, I'm just going to put on my judge's hat, so to speak. And too many people, when they're talking about a flaw in a dog, just concedes to the fact that because it doesn't say it's a disqualification or a major flaw, or that it isn't. You know, like they'll say, okay, a bad bite is a flaw, you know, or a high rear is a flaw, or bad feet, you know, easty westy, or, you know, splayed feet or web feet, or whatever, flaws. I think web feet in most things are disqualification. But with that being said, you have to understand that there is levels to it. So if you come in and, for instance, if you come in and you're going to show a dog or whatever, and your dog has, say, like a inch and a half, I've even seen a ridiculous like 2-inch gap on an underbite, that's technically that's really a disqualification. You know, now in the most of the, you know, descriptions of what the breed is supposed to be, it will tell you a slight underbite, you know, as a flaw. But I mean, it says the underbite is a flaw, but the truth of the matter is that almost any flaw, high rear included, roach back included, it can become disqualifications. You know, for whatever reason, I don't understand why, but a lot of people don't consider the kink tail a disqualification. Well, the truth of the matter is, if you have a judge that has, you know, some integrity and is judging it correctly, a dog can't win with a kink tail, because every bit of points that is going towards a championship, you're in the ring, the way the judge is supposed to be deciding and looking at this situation himself or herself, is that I'm awarding a dog and giving a dog points towards the championship. So if I even give your 6-month-old puppy, you know, and that's if I was judging for another registry, but if, you know, I give you a 6-month-old a first place win, you know, that's actually starting to climb points towards a championship. You know, if I give, you know what I mean, 12-month-old or whatever, that's climbing. There are 6-month-old dogs who have actually become champions in certain registries. But at the end of the day, that's points towards the championship. So I have to be in my mindset of, is this a championship quality dog? And when we do this thing, if you know, a lot of us always talks about the AKC. Well, if we were doing it as the AKC would do it, or some of the other places would do it, the one thing that we would have to look at, and the one thing that we would have to discuss and talk about truly, is the simple fact that the AKC would not allow, under any circumstance, a breed that does not have the kink tailed allowed in their description to become a champion. The same thing with the high rear, you know. So this is where it's more time for the American Bully to level up, because if we're ever going to compare ourselves to other breeds, we have to start thinking about this. Flaws, yes, a flaw can be very minor, and this is where we'll let it pass. Like if your dog has an underbite, for instance, and it's very, very minor, you know what I mean? I see it there, it's not a bad one, you know, definitely not a scissor bite. Okay, overbite the same way. It's got to be very, very slight. In the high rear situation, a lot of dogs will have a slightly high rear, but once they go into a stack and get at a 90 degree at the hawks, they'll, you know, by stretching those black legs out, you know what I'm saying, so that back part is going straight up and down, which most of y'all would say like is by the ankle. And you see that nice swoop coming up to where the you know, the rear would be. When you stack them, sometimes it'll level out. It'll level the top line out, and it'll be beautiful. Now, keep in mind, because of the way the dog is built, angles determine everything. So if your dog has a stiff stifle, which for those who don't know what that is, basically the leg doesn't bend in the back. It doesn't bend properly. It doesn't have that swoop to go into the 90 degree. You sort of straighten the dog out and the leg looks like this. It's just sort of straight. You know, it doesn't have any type of turn or bend to it. And you'll see them overextend the dog a lot of times to level the rear. Either way, it's going to tell. And sometimes it's only one issue. Because what actually happens is the dogs who have a stiff stifle and their legs are not able to bend, it makes them almost up on their tiptoes all the time in human terms. So what happens is with them supposed to have that the proper swoop in the back and bend in the back, what it does is it makes the dog's rear appear higher because they're not getting that bend, which would in turn give an inch or two. So you see that inch or two that wasn't given at the top, and it makes the rear end higher. So that's why sometimes when you stack them, it drops down. Now the problem is if your dog has a stiff stifle, that's a flaw too. So we see that. So in order for you to, in order for these things to be right, like to sort of get a pass on it, if your dog has, you know, a proper stifle and has everything that it needs, but the rear is off by say an inch, and you can see it very slight, but when he goes into the stack, it looks a lot more presentable. Then the judge will say, okay, that's not that bad. Same thing with the a sway back, which, you know, dip in the back or whatever, roach back, hunchback, you know, all of these things, you know, if it's very, very slight, the judge will pass it. But if it's very prevalent, we have to make decisions, you know, and I'm only speaking for my judges and what y'all will see from my judges, but we have to make that decision that there's no such thing as a roach back champion, you know. So if it's an obvious roach back, or if it's an obvious sway back where it looks like somebody like myself who's pretty heavy has been riding on the back of this dog for his whole life, and then he can't win. It just doesn't make sense. You know, every flaw can be a disqualification. Don't ever look into it as that, oh, it's a flaw, so my dog only got one flaw, he got a chance. It's the severity of that flaw that can lead to disqualification. Now, some things are total disqualifications, like certain color patterns, lack of color, lack of pigmentation, one testicle. You know, there's many things. One of the things that's truly a disqualification that is not being enforced is, you know, they say lack of breed type, and I'll use their term. But when you say lack of breed type, it's often that they're talking about the dog, it has to be a certain weight and he's got to be pretty big or whatever. Truth of the matter is that lack of breed type could describe the fact that this is an American bully and your dog looks like an American bulldog. He doesn't fit the breed type. If his face is too much bulldog instead of the traditional American bully look that we're looking for in the face, then that could be a disqualification. There's no way that, you know, for instance, and we flip the script again, there's no way that you would ever see a Doberman win with a very, very full face. You know, that's not going to happen. If the Doberman's head resembles a Rottweiler mix with a Doberman, he won't win. His head is too big. He doesn't have the qualifications to win. That's a lack of breed type in that breed. These are all things that, you know, we're going to get down to fine tuning when we start to get in this show ring, which will be very shortly. So I'm just reminding you guys, you know, as you come under our judges, you're going to notice that they're a lot more strict than any other registry. And it's not, I don't want anybody to get, you know, to the point where they feel like, oh, you know, I don't have a chance, this, that, and the other, because there are some dogs out there that will qualify, that will be good representatives, and will be able to win. But at the same time, some of the dogs that have been praised for being, you know, these great dogs because they're bully will not win, because our theories on dogs is different. Our first and foremost, as y'all know, if you watch my channel at all, we are about health. The dog has to be able to run. The dog has to be able to move. The dog has to be able to do all these things. The original American bullies, if you were going back, say 20 years, maybe 25 years, those dogs could run, those dogs could move, those dogs had a lot of go about them. Even and the thing of it is the misconception is that those dogs were small dogs. No, you have to remember, as I've reminded y'all probably every day, that the original American bullies were all big dogs, because that was a time when everybody wanted a 100-pound blue pit or a 100-pound red nose. You know, all of those names are really whatever, but you know, people wanted those dogs, and you saw dogs 130 pounds. Hey, you stop that. Got crazy puppy. But at the end of the day, you know, we're just fine tuning it. It's not unfair. It's actually very fair, and it's going back to being more fair for those who are trying to show dogs in a proper fashion that good dogs do win. That's what we're going back to. And you'll see it's not a drastic thing. Just maybe some of the things that y'all have complained about in the past will not be, you know, something to complain about when you see dogs with high rears and bad feet and all these things winning championships and winning shows over your good, clean dogs. Our dogs might not be bulldogish, you know, or whatever the case may be, but we will definitely have the cleanest, healthiest dogs in the bully world, and that's the way to push forward the breed. You can always add more size as you go along, but you can never get the health and the structure back once you destroy it. So that's why we're pushing it that way. Just an explanation. Until next time, much love. Peace.